and welcome back to the Card Pool. I'm your host, Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And today we are looking at an awesome throwback set. We're taking a look at Kamigawa, Champions that is.
That's right, the very first set in the Kamigawa block, and we're going to start off, as we always do, with our hidden gems.
So the way this works is we're going to go through our selection of 6 through 10, explain what they do and why we like them and why you might want to take note.
And 1 through 5 we'll get to later on, but let's start first things first. Number 10, Stu, I think you're first, so what's your card?
All right, so mine is a little bit interesting. You might not like it. It's called Blood Speaker. Now, this is a 4-drop creature. It costs 3 generic and a black for a 3/2 Ogre Shaman, and it reads at the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice this creature, and if you do, search your library for a demon card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. Secondly, whenever a demon comes into play under your control, return this creature from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a tutor, and we see a lot of tutors in black for 4 mana. You see Diabolic Tutor, and you see Mastermind's Acquisition, which is one of the more newer ones. So what makes this so different? Well, the thing is, it's a tribal tutor, which is kind of unique in its own right. Ever since we've been seeing more changelings in Commander, it's relevant. But if you think about this in a tribal sense, this is inherently kind of Black's version of Squee. You can inherently go ahead and keep using this for discard over and over again, provided you have enough demons. If your commander's a demon, it comes back. This comes back into play, and inherently you can use it for discard. You can maybe use it to go ahead and tutor something out that you might need. It's just very unique for being an uncommon that's almost versatile.
That's true. It is kind of a double use there. And like you were saying, Stu, if it was just kind of a delayed tutor with a body that can attack and block and all that, that would be all right. Yeah. Especially because this is a creature, and it's a creature too. But the returning effect makes it really reusable and a lot stronger for that. So you're actually wrong. I do like this card a lot.
Hey, all right. We're on
I would absolutely play this in any deck that had a few really key, like powerful demon cards, just for the fact that it can keep bringing itself back.
Well, we see some good demons out there, like Runescarred Demon, Razaketh is a demon, but also we see Shadowborn Apostle decks, which are all about demons. So inherently this can work in those kind of rooms. Again, also, if you rely on certain key pieces that happen to be demons, like this would work in that regard as well. And also think about how good it would be. You go ahead, you play something, you have to do a discard cost, and inherently it happens to be a demon, it comes back into play, or you sacrifice it to bring a demon into play, or yada yada, like so many different things.
There's got to be something out there that like you discard cards to make demons. There's got to be something like that. I know there's at least a Planeswalker that makes demon tokens, so you know.
Or if you're using Madness, like you can go ahead and use this, get it back, like Madness. Like I said, again, it's almost another Squee. You can use this in a variety of ways.
Yeah, very interesting. Not just a tutor, has some other possible applications as well.
Yeah.
But here we go. I'll see if I can do you one better with this one. So my number 10 is a red card called Soul Blast, and it's a 6 mana instant. That's 3 and triple red. You don't really see an instant that high price real often. So as an additional cost to cast Soul Blast, you sacrifice all creatures you control, and then Soul Blast does damage to target creature or player equal to the total power of all the sacrificed creatures. So why would you want to pay 6 mana to sacrifice an entire board full of your own creatures? Well, there's actually a lot of reasons why you might want to do that. First of all, this is the finisher for token decks that for whatever reason aren't able to swing in for damage.
Okay.
If you're in a green-white token deck, say, a lot of the time, if you're the way you win is attacking for damage, whether it's just through a lot of combat damage or if it's with something like a Triumph of the Hordes or something like that. That's how you win. If those decks can't deal combat damage, they can't do anything. They're just completely hung up. However,
for the most part,
if you add red into the mix and you have access to something like this, suddenly you can just forget about attacking, fling all the tokens right at other players' faces.
Agreed.
And it's a pretty great option to have, I think.
Yeah, it's good with Naya, and I mean, as long as you're using red, like it works well with certain commanders that get big consequently by having mana or a board state. It's very similar to the one equipment that you see. It's a trident of some kind where you go ahead, you equip it to it, and you kind of like you tap it. It's like the creature more or less throwing the trident at a player, and it's dealing damage equal to it. So it's not sacrificing, but again, it depends on what kind of thing you're doing. It's either an all-out, plan B, the whole board's going for this, or a one-of. So it could be big.
And if you've got something that relies on death triggers to go off, Soul Blast does it by sacrificing a lot of creatures. So Omnath Locus of Rage is the key thing that springs to mind. make a lot of elementals, attack somebody with a bunch of 5/5s for a lot of damage, and then, oh, by the way, I'm going to Soul Blast and deal, like, for 3 damage for each one with Omnath, and then 5 damage for each one on their own. That's a lot of damage.
Well, and again, you're in red, you can double the damage, no problem. You got Furnace Pits of Wrath and a whole bunch of other things that are like that.
Right.
So
pretty unconventional, but I thought absolutely worth a mention out of this set.
You know, it actually could work in a Perforos deck, too, depending on your build.
Oh, definitely.
So, but moving on to number 9, if you don't mind.
All right, go ahead.
So the next one that is on my list, and again, they have a lot of weird names in this set, so I'm going to do a good job of just butchering it up. It's Shishato Whispering Hunter.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate it. It's a 4-mana legendary creature with a 2/2 body. It is a snake warrior that costs 3 generic and a forest. And it reads at the beginning of your upkeep, you must sacrifice a snake. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player unskips his or her next untap step. So snakes in Commander, there is support for them, but they're not heavily seen. The most iconic would be like a Sakura Tribe Elder, which was scattered throughout Commander.
Right.
But for this effect, and as also a potential commander being out there, is huge being able to swipe away a person's untap step. If they can't get mana, they can't play the game. They can't do pretty much anything else, and you completely annihilate that player for as long as you want.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
It's this really strange card. I mean, it's a little tiny body, doesn't really have any kind of evasion on it, so it's like, it's really tough to make this work, but if you can, the payoff is well worth it, because yes, making somebody skip their untap step is just a brutal thing to do. And odds are, if you can do it once, chances are you're going to be able to do it again. So you can maybe even lock players out of the game with this card. It's possible. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know where this goes. It may be some kind of deck like a Farika or Hapatra that relies on snakes and producing tokens.
That could work.
Maybe, but it's just weird. Could this be a commander on its own? Maybe? I don't know.
It depends on the support. There's not a whole bunch of snakes out there.
No.
So, but again, it could also go with like an Azuri deck where it cares all about little 2/2 guys coming into play or whatever.
And if you give this haste, I mean, all it has to do is get in once, you know, to do some major damage. So, yeah, very, very interesting card. Kamigawa was full of weird, kind of cool legends like this one.
And off the grid. So I really liked it. I'm glad you enjoyed it as well.
Oh, definitely.
But moving on to your number 9.
Yes, my number 9 is going to be an artifact called Rido Lantern.
How do you say that so easily?
I don't know. I don't really know. I'm just kind of making this up too. But it's a 2-mana artifact.
At least you're honest.
For 3 mana, you can put target card in anyone's graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. So again, this is one of those seeming to defy logic type of things. Why would you want to give anyone back a card from their graveyard? For that matter, you like your graveyard most of the time. It's like a second hand these days, so why would you willingly put something out of your graveyard on the bottom of your deck? I mean, you can tutor for it maybe then, sure, but why would you really do that? Sometimes this card can be useful if your deck doesn't have much access to recursion.
Yeah.
Putting things back on the bottom of your deck, maybe you have a lot of tutors, but not a lot of ways to get things back from the graveyard. This card can do that for you, but this is actually a combo piece. It's deceptive, but it's true.
So with what?
Grenzo, Dungeon Warden. You remember that guy from Conspiracy?
Cares about the bottom card of the deck.
Exactly. And it's like the only, I mean, not the only, I think there's like one other card ever that cares about the bottom of the deck.
A handful, but
yeah, with that commander, Rido Lantern becomes suddenly a really good card. And there are other ones like it. There's Epitaph Golem, and then there's an altar from...
Epitaph Golem?
Epitaph, yeah.
Makes you throw up if you drink them.
From Innistrad that does kind of the same thing. But yeah, this is actually, it's one of those times where putting things on the bottom of the deck becomes really broken. So it's one circumstance, but I thought that alone makes this worth a mention.
See, when you said combo, I initially thought Tunnel Vision, which is usually a lot more infamous for making people just flat out lose the game. You name whatever cards on the bottom, they go straight down to that.
You could do that too, yeah.
You can use it on yourself, like as a Lab Maniac combo, or with the new Jace. So
or Oracle of Thassa, which is better than any of them.
Which works, potentially. So like this does have some very janky plays. Of course, in blue is where you're going to find a lot of them. But yeah, it's not horrible. It has its plays. It's just outside of that spectrum, maybe a little light. But either way, decent card to take note of.
All right, what's our next card, Stu?
So at my number 8, we are looking at a very different kind of permanent type. We're looking at an Aura. So this is, for my number 8, Aura of Domon. Dominion?
Dominion.
Dominion. Okay. It is a 2-drop enchantment for double blue, and it reads, you pay 1 mana and tap an untapped creature you control to untap enchanted creature. So a cool thing to note is when you go ahead and you put this on a creature, it's now an enchanted creature. So inherently you can untap whatever you put on this. And I did some research, and you can actually have a really sweet combo for infinite mana with this.
Oh, I'm sure you can. This seems like something that could easily do that.
Yeah, well, I was like, all right, obviously one exists, right? So I was like, I should find one. I actually took a little bit of time, but I was able to kind of piece one together via what I could find. So, Argothian Elder.
Okay.
I think that's how you say it, I don't know. But pretty much it's a creature that goes ahead and you tap it to untap 2 lands. So pretty much what it is you need to go ahead and you equip this to that Elder, and then you need a land that can produce 2 mana.
Right.
And you need a man land.
Right.
And then you go ahead and you keep doing this, and you keep going around, you produce
and you make lots of mana.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay, no, that's cool. I was actually thinking of using this, and I don't know, I'm like still thinking about it, undecided. This goes very nicely in Prime Speaker Vanifar.
I have no idea what you just said.
Prime Speaker Vanifar, the Birthing Pod legend commander from
yeah.
Yeah, because tapping her, you sack a creature to get, the next step up creature, and then you can tap whatever that is to untap her, do it all over again. So as long as you have enough mana, you're guaranteed to get to the combos that make that deck work. So
yeah, you can
even
speed that
though
up a lot.
I'm usually not a huge fan of auras at all, but in this case, that's a pretty darn good aura, I have to admit.
Yeah, and that was the thing. It's like, all right, if an infinite combo exists for it, inherently it has to be good on its own. And it is. But there's definitely some niche spots where, like you were saying, with a commander, even probably a Eson would be awesome with.
Yeah, if you can play it with this, somehow.
Yeah.
But
So
it's one of those that I found.
Powerful.
It's one of those. I have a bunch of these laying around in my boxes of cards, and I recently was going through them as I usually do, and I looked at it again. I was like, I wonder this could actually be pretty good. I think so. I wonder where it would go. So yeah.
But yeah, let
call.
us know if you've actually used this card with anything in particular to go infinite or as just like a solid 99 tech piece. But until then. Kyle, what do you have for your number 8?
All right, well, I'm actually going to go ahead and break my own rule because an aura is my next card.
You hypocrite.
Yeah, a little bit. But it's called Cage of Hands, and it's a white card, costs 3 to play, and it's, once again, an aura. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, so it's one of those offensive auras rather than defensive auras. But you can also tap 1 colorless and 1 white, 2 mana, to return Cage of Hands to its owner's hand. Like I was saying, I don't usually love auras. A pacifism like this is, usually I would just rather straight up remove a creature than just temporarily stop it. And normally I wouldn't waste my time with this kind of card. But because it can be rebought, this card stands out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot of mana to, play it for 3, bring it back for 2, play it for 3, bring it back for 2. Sure, that's a lot of mana to not really do anything.
Yeah,
but the advantage is in Enchantress decks. Because with Constellation, with other ones like the Enchantress creatures that use cast, not ETBs.
Sure.
Reusing something like this and being able to shut down a creature that's threatening you, and then, when you can, rebuying it and casting it again for some more value is a really good thing to have.
It is. I mean, I initially thought of a Saram deck inherently, because you just get the draw value off it.
Right.
But also, inherently, this becomes really hard to destroy. It has that Sensei Divining Top kind of effect where it's like, all right, in response, I'll just return this and it will miss the removal.
Right.
But unlike Sensei's Divining Top where it's a tap, someone can go ahead and use another piece of removal to destroy it. You can just pay his cost again and still bring it back to safety. So for that regard, yeah, you'll get your usability out of this and the versatility. This isn't necessarily just a one-use type of card where you see with auras mostly. Yeah,
there are other auras that do serve a similar kind of function and actually are a little better, but this one is the only one out of those really that is offensive and can be used to, protect you and shut down other people's creatures. So it's worth noting.
If only it had Flash. That's the only thing I think really needs on it.
Yeah, that would be really awesome if it did.
But moving on to number 7, I have a white card up my arsenal as well. It is called Reverse the Sands. It is an 8-drop sorcery, 6 generic and double white, and pretty much you go ahead and for this amount of mana, you redistribute any number of players' life totals. I mean, it's all it does. It's very simple. It's very easy to read. But that is super duper powerful just because it's really easy to make it so anyone who's been building up this life total, or you've been just getting hit in the face and being able to play out stuff and just like, all right, I don't care, damage, damage, damage. You can inherently just Tarantino it, flip the tables on them, and now they have this miserable life total that they've been trying to bring you down to. Like, somebody goes ahead, they use Magister Sphinx on you, okay, you have that effect now. And again, you inherently don't have to even bring your life total into this. You can just choose other players and change their life totals around. So this is a political card that's chaos and white a little bit.
Well, and it also doesn't target the players, so you can't get around it with things like hexproof. But I didn't take this card seriously. I've had it for a while. Thought it was just, a bulk junk rare.
You are crazy.
And I didn't take it seriously until I saw it played like once, where some poor player was getting wailed on the entire game and like didn't do anything. And then out of nowhere, he just plays this and gives the person at the table who has all the advantages like 1 life. And it was nuts.
That is great.
Play of the game. And I don't know. I don't know how great this is being like 8 mana and dependent on, you to be doing poorly for it to be good, but still, it's kind of cool. It can be a big deal.
Well, I was thinking also, if you go ahead and you do like a big life play like Aetherflux Reservoir, you get to that cap, you survive, you kill one player, swap the life total so that person almost paid for it instead of you. That's huge, and honestly, this could be really good in like Orzhov. Anything that uses a little bit of black to pay life.
Just pay all your life, then swap it with someone else.
Yeah,
pretty
super
good.
Easy. Or like if you have a Bolus of Citadel out, play out this, go into this, pay that, swap it. Now you can play out even more stuff. It's kind of very ridiculous the more you start looking into it.
I think I need to build a white-black deck now just to do that.
I don't want you to, but I'm glad I at least inspired you to do something. But moving on to your number 7, Kyle, what do you got flowing?
Yes, well, my number 7, it's going to be a little weird, so bear with us. It's a flip card, and this was back in Kamigawa before they actually designed cards on the front and back of the card. They felt like they needed to do it all on one side, so it looks bad, but whatever.
Yeah, not as easy to read.
Sumi Graverobber is the front half. So that costs 2 mana for a 2/1, and for an additional 2 mana, you can exile target card from an opponent's graveyard, and then if there are no cards in that graveyard, it flips, aka kind of transforms. And the thing it transforms into is Night Eyes the Desecrator, which is a legendary rat, which has its own ability. It's 4/2, so it gets a little bit bigger, and you can tap 5, so 4 and 1 black, to put target creature card in a graveyard into play under your control. Anyone's graveyard into play under your control. I like this card. I've had this for a while, since when I first started buying up Magic, was like around the Mirrodin Kamigawa era. This was one of the first cards I got. And this card, it does kind of conflict a little bit with itself, because you're hating on people's graves and then trying to steal things out of people's graves.
That's what I was going to say.
So it's a little bit weird in that respect, but more often than not, I feel you're going to be reanimating your own creatures rather than somebody else's. And the thing is, if this comes down early enough in the game, it can flip very easily while there's still very few cards in the graveyard. And yeah, like the ability to tap 5 and just bring back any creature you want is pretty darn powerful.
Well, yeah, you have to remove at least 1 target card for this to flip.
Yes.
And so, actually, this isn't too hard to go ahead and use the stack for. You go ahead and use something like Scavenger Grounds, where you go ahead and you exile all graves at once. You use Boudicca Bog, and then on the stack, you use this effect, and however you want to try to be able to stack the effect in some way. I guess it's easier with the Scavenger Grounds for that. But you can make it so that you get this effect, it goes off, and it flips right away. It will take you some time to go ahead and get the graveyard effect, but you could use something like an Entomb or anything else to just put something big in your grave, and you go ahead and you cheat the value out. And also, with this being a rat tribal's a thing, so
it can
work
be.
in that.
Yeah, but it's a pretty solid card for just like an uncommon. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think it's a little niche, but again,
definitely, but yeah,
but still interesting nonetheless. So moving on to number 6 of my final card for this video. Again, our next one will include 5 through 1 for us to let you know what we think is the tippy top of what we found. It is a instant arcane card that I found that is called Reweave. It costs 6 mana, 5 generic, and a blue. And it reads, target permanent's controller sacrifices it. That player reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a card that shares a card type with the sacrifice permanent. And if you're still listening, the player that puts that card into play then shuffles his or her library. Lastly, this has the added caveat, since it is an arcane, you can go ahead and splice this onto an arcane card, which, if you are unaware of that effect, is if you go ahead and you play a card that is an arcane, for the splice cost, you can go ahead and use the same thing and keep this card in your hand. You're like, I'll pay 4, reveal this is the effect that's going off.
It just adds an additional ability to the card, and it's kind of a shame, because I wish that there were more arcane cards. I have never seen anyone in my, 15 or so years of playing Magic, I've never seen anyone splice, ever.
Yeah.
I really wish they would. It's a really cool ability. I just feel like there just aren't enough cards that are good for people to want to do it.
If we ever return to Kamigawa, maybe we'll actually get a Splice Commander, which would make it viable.
That would be nice, though.
We'll see. But either way, so if you still remember what the card was at this point, pretty much this is a solid piece of blue spot removal, whether you're using it offensively or defensively. It is a little expensive for what it does, but it does destroy the permanent, which blue typically has problems doing. Usually it likes to return stuff to the hand or the deck in some sort of way, but you can go ahead and make it so that you can go ahead and find something. This is like a reshape, where but not for just artifacts. You can go ahead and make it so you can get a planeswalker, creature, land, even if you animate it somehow. Like, you can figure out exactly what you want to grab with this if you know your deck the right way.
Right, exactly. This is kind of in terms of removal, it's an extremely overcosted version of Chaos Warp, although it is a little better because it does permanently, get rid of whatever you targeted with it. It can be used offensively or defensively on yourself or on other players, but yeah, exactly like you said. The main reason I would use this is not as a 6-mana removal spell in blue, but as some way to enable you to do something really dumb and broken, like playing the only creature in your deck, which is an Eldrazi Titan or something.
Yeah.
As early as possible. Yeah, I would go for that.
But again, you have to have the mana to get there, so it will take some time. But there are ways to reduce costs of instants and blue spells if you have the medallions out and stuff like that. But again, the real true value is the splicing onto the arcane. Some cards just happen to have arcane on them.
Kodama's Reach, it's an arcane spell. Everybody uses it. Nobody ever pays attention to that.
No, exactly. So, I would not run this card solely for that reason if you're running that. However, if you can line those cards up, if the moon and the sun happen to line up just right and you get that value, it will feel great. I guarantee you that much.
You never know.
But I don't think I've ever seen a splice onto arcane play in my entire life.
It's a shame because it's really cool. But anyway, let's go on to my number 6 here.
Yes.
So, and it's another one of these flip cards. I know they hurt the eyes, but just, bear with me.
And the soul a bit, but
yeah. A little. But this one is a green card called Boudicca Gardner. That's the front half. It's, again, a 2-mana 2/1. Sounds familiar. This one's a human monk, and you can tap it to put a land from your hand into play. Then, if you control 10 or more lands, it transforms into Dokai Weaver of Life, which is a legendary creature that taps for 6 and a tap ability. Put an XX green elemental token into play, where X is the number of lands you control.
So that's pretty big.
Yeah, well, the reason I like this card is this is one of the more solid flip cards, and honestly, I'm shocked that this doesn't see much play at all, because the tap on the small side is pretty decent if you're a ramp deck. Like, putting a land into play, that's an extra land, so that then you would normally be able to play, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
It relies on you having lands in your hand, but in this case, it's cool, to me at least, because then, if you manage to get as many lands into play as you need, it transforms, and once you can start making tokens that are as big as the number of lands you have every single turn, that's terrifying.
Easily. It's unusual for this kind of effect. Like, usually an exploration is a little bit better, I would say, or like a Souza is a little bit better, but they get worse the later the game goes on, whereas this guy doesn't have that effect, which is very unusual for that. It gets better. Like, if you happen to get this on turn 9, and again, you're in green, you've probably ramped up a good bit. You've also played things to go ahead and put other lands into play. Kodama's Reach, like we were saying before, is a great example of something as such. And if you're in white, imagine having a land tax with this out. This is just really great. It takes no mana to go ahead and use the tap effect to put lands into play. So it is probably one of the better version of this, we'll call them frontal flips,
Yeah, I mean,
that
this
we
is like
see
the
out there.
ramp deck's best friend. I don't know why you wouldn't play this if you're playing a lot of ramp.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is it sometimes gets a little outclassed. Like with a Lotus Cobra, for example, like 2 mana. Like which one would you rather have out most of the time? If there's
Well,
no
it depends
lands,
on when it depends on when in the game you are, because Lotus Cobra is great early, late, not so much.
Yeah.
So,
But again, it's definitely a solid card. If you're in an Omnath deck, easily fits home in there.
just one
Titania,
of
same
many.
thing. So, but yeah, that's going to conclude our final card for this segment. We're going to have another one come out the following week for you guys to see what else we have found. But be sure to let us know what cards you liked. Were they dank? Were they jank? Let us know in the comments down below.
Yep, and of course, like and subscribe. Follow us on all of our social media channels. We've got Reddit, Facebook, Twitter. We're on Tapped Out, so you can see our deck lists all at the card pool, and you can also email us as well.
Yep, and also don't forget we have our affiliate link with TCG Player down below, so if you happen to buy cards from there, be sure to click this link, and it will really support our channel.
Yep, and we appreciate anything you're willing to do. So thank you for that, and thanks for watching.
Yep, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time at the card pool.